This happened in 2020, right after I got laid off during the first wave of lockdowns. I was desperate for a job, any job. So when I saw a listing for a janitor position at an old private school about 20 minutes outside of town, I applied the same day. They didn't even do a proper interview. Just a phone call from the head custodian asking if I could start that night. I said yes. The place was called St. Edward's Academy. I'd never heard of it, but I found it on the map. It sat on top of a small hill, surrounded by trees. When I got there around 10 p.m., the parking lot was empty except for a single pickup truck. The building was dark except for one light in a back window. The guy who called me, Sam, met me at the side entrance. He looked like he'd worked there his whole life. Didn't say much. Just handed me a mop bucket and said, "You'll do the third floor tonight. Don't go near the chapel. It's locked anyway." That was it. No HR forms, no uniform. Just straight to work. The inside of the school was older than I expected. High ceilings, wooden floors that creaked, and portraits of priests and nuns lining the halls. Some parts of the building smelled like mildew. Others just smelled wrong, like something sour had been left sitting too long. The third floor was all classrooms, but the lights were dim and flickered. I started sweeping and mopping like I was told. Maybe 30 minutes in, I heard the faint sound of a piano, just a few soft notes like someone was slowly pressing keys at random. I stopped, listened. It stopped too. I told myself it was probably from another floor, or maybe someone had a ringtone that sounded like that. I kept working, but it came back again, closer. This time it was definitely coming from down the hall. I followed it slowly until I reached a classroom at the end. The door was slightly ajar. Inside was completely dark, but I could still hear the notes, one at a time, out of rhythm. I pushed the door open and the music stopped instantly. The room was empty, no piano, nothing, just desks and chairs. I backed out of the room and shut the door, feeling completely on edge. When I turned around to head back to my cart, I saw it, the faint shape of a figure at the far end of the hallway. It was standing just past the old lockers, in the shadows, unmoving, watching me. I froze. The figure didn't move. I blinked, and it was gone. I ran. I didn't even grab the mop cart. I bolted down the stairs and out the side door. Sam was standing there, smoking a cigarette. I told him what I saw. All he said was, "You weren't supposed to open that door." Then he tossed his cigarette and went back inside. I quit the next morning. Didn't even ask for the one night's pay. I was 19 and had just moved out of my parents' house. I got a job as a night clerk at a 24-hour gas station in a rural area off the highway. My first shift started at 10 p.m. The manager gave me a quick rundown, how to work the register, where the cameras were, how to lock up the back room. Pretty basic stuff. He left by 10:30 and I was alone. For the first couple of hours it was uneventful. Just a few truckers stopping in, a couple people buying snacks. Around 1:15 a.m., a man walked in wearing a heavy coat and a baseball cap pulled low. He never made eye contact, just walked straight to the coolers and stared at the drinks for a while. When he came up to the counter, he was holding a single bottle of water. As I rang him up, he leaned in and asked, "Is there anyone else working tonight?" I paused, then said no. I didn't like how he asked it. He nodded and said, "Good," and walked out without even taking the water. I looked at the security monitor and watched him stand by the side of the building, just standing there, for 10 minutes. Then the monitor cut out. Static. I tried to reset it, but it wouldn't work. That's when I heard the back door rattle. It was locked, but someone was tugging at it, hard. I grabbed the phone and called the manager. It rang 5 times, then went to voicemail. I called again. Nothing. The rattling stopped. I walked around to the back hallway, heart pounding, and saw something taped to the glass of the back door. It was a Polaroid photo. I pulled it off. It was a picture of me, taken just a few minutes ago, standing behind the counter. I dropped it and ran to the front, locked the door, shut off the lights, and hid behind the counter with my phone ready to dial 911. I waited there for nearly an hour. When morning came and the sun started to rise, the manager pulled into the lot. I told him everything. He looked at me and said, "Yeah, he came back." Apparently this had happened once before, years ago, but they could never prove anything. Nothing was ever stolen. No fingerprints. No faces on camera. I never went back after that first shift. That Polaroid still haunts me. This was in 2018 and I was fresh out of high school, excited to start working. I got a job as a caregiver at a private nursing home. Small place, only 6 residents. The building was old, kind of creaky, but clean and well kept. My first day was a night shift, starting at 7 p.m. and ending at 7 a.m. I was shadowing a woman named Carol, who had been working there for over 10 years. She was quiet, nice enough, and showed me how to do the rounds, dispense the meds, all the basics. Around 10 p.m., Carol told me she was going to take a short nap in the staff room and asked me to listen for any call bells. I agreed. At first, everything was fine. Then one of the call lights went off. Room 3. I checked the chart. The resident's name was Ms. Holloway, 92 years old, mostly bedridden. I walked to her room and knocked. No answer. I opened the door slowly and peeked in. She was lying in bed, perfectly still. Eyes closed. I stepped inside and softly asked if she was okay. That's when she opened her eyes wide. She looked terrified. She pointed a trembling finger toward the corner of the room. "There's a man," she whispered. "He was in here." I turned. No one. I checked the closet, under the bed. Nothing. I told her no one was there, but she shook her head. He was standing right there, watching me. I stayed with her until she calmed down and fell asleep. Then I went to wake Carol and told her what happened. She got real quiet and asked, "Did she say anything else?" "No," I replied. "Why?" Carol stared at me for a moment, then said, "Ms. Holloway's roommate died in that bed 6 months ago. A man. He used to stand in that same corner watching her sleep. We thought she was hallucinating. But after he died, she kept pointing to that corner." I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. Carol just sighed and said, "It's always the first night that shows you if you can handle this job." Wait, that was my one and only shift there.